Welcome to the Glazier Nation podcast, where we uncover the best stories and the best practices of the glass and glazing industry. Whether you're a seasoned vet or just starting out your journey, this show's a great place for entertainment and a deeper understanding of our industry. I'm your host, John Spellman, and I'm truly honored to take you beyond the glass. Welcome back to the Glazier Nation podcast. My guests, that's right, plural, my guests this week are Tyler and Brandon from Drafting Marketplace. I don't want to bury the lead with all the details about Drafting Marketplace. I'll let Tyler and Brandon do that, but essentially it's a new, unique way to connect glazing contractors with engineers and draftsmen. I had a blast chatting with Tyler and Brandon. Hope you enjoy the podcast. The Glazier Nation podcast is sponsored by Glazier Nation. You can check out all their offerings at glaziernation.com. If you're interested in sponsoring the podcast or other marketing opportunities, go to glaziernation.com/marketing. And if you have questions for me or you know someone that would make a great guest for the show, you can contact us on any of our social medias at Glazier Nation Podcast.
Excuse me, the company was originally based in South Carolina, but with COVID we went remote, and so now we're both of us are in Missouri. We've got people in South Carolina and Florida, in
Pennsylvania,
yeah, all over the place.
And when you say you've got people, you've got employees, or you've got I'll call them subcontractors that are doing.
We've got subcontractors all over U.S. and Canada, but we've got W-2 employees in all these other places.
Are you guys from South Carolina?
No, I went. We're both from Missouri, actually. We were born in an area called Southwest Missouri. Our parents were neighbors when we were born, and we've been friends since birth, essentially.
We were high-fiving through the womb.
Yeah, they were actually neighbors.
What's the age difference between you guys?
A month?
If not even 29 days.
Really?
Yeah.
So you guys were neighbors, and now you're business partners. Wow.
Went to elementary school all the way, graduated high school together. Yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I was gonna follow that with how did you guys meet each other, but we kind of buried the lead. It's out.
Sorry, man. Yeah. Yeah. So our parents were friends and neighbors. They had children at the same time. They actually divorced at the same time. And
kept it equal.
Yeah.
What a bonding experience.
I know it. Right. I know it. So we
went to therapy at 3 years old, all for that at the same time. At one point, it's funny. So he's originally from Norway. He can get into all that. But like a lot of his family's still in Norway. So I don't remember this because we were 18 months old.
Yeah,
maybe? Maybe if that. So they tell us a story where we're sitting in one of our living room. I think it must be your living room. I'm sitting in the floor, and our moms, they had gone into moms and dads, whatever. Nobody was in the room. I'm sitting there, somebody bounced out real quick, and so I'm sitting there. Somebody had Brandon. His grandma comes through the door, picks me up, and says, "Brandon, you've gotten so big." I was a fat kid, so all the way to the point where, because she's hadn't seen him for a while, so she's thinking he chunked up a little bit. And
I was a fat kid too. I was 10 pounds, so when I was born,
and it was me. So his grandma his family members were mixing us up even from little bitty. So
now when we travel, people are like, "Are you guys brothers or lovers?" And we're like, "Neither. We're neither. We're just friends."
That is unique though. You guys have to realize how unique that is, right?
We're starting to realize how unique that is.
Yeah. We didn't think anything of it until I thought obviously it was cool, but
I think you'd probably find some pockets of, hey, we were friends in high school, we started a business together, but like from birth, that's wild. I mean, like all my friends that I knew, you move. My parents moved when I was 8. They moved when I was 10. I moved out of that hometown. I consider that hometown when I was 10. That's hometown, right? I moved out of there when I was 18, right? Like I still keep in touch with some of those people, but man, like to grow up just completely parallel and then start a company together. The company, you started it in let's let listeners know what the company is, right? I'm sure a lot of these listeners probably know you guys. You have a pretty strong social media presence. But what is Drafting Marketplace? Give us the elevator spiel.
So we connect. I come from a drafting background. Brandon comes from marketing and advertising and software. And so basically what we do is we connect contractors with drafters and engineers across the country when they need shop drawings and engineering. So if a contractor, it's a lot of contractors, they have some, firms that they'll work with, some drafters, engineers, whatever. Lead times get stretched out, bids come in and they need to be, they need to have some options. So we create a drafting marketplace for a place for them to go when they need to outsource. They can post the project they have on the marketplace, and then all of our users, drafting and engineering users, see that pop up, review it. If it fits their schedule, send them over a price and a lead time, and then the contractor can review profiles, past projects, examples of their work, things like that, and then choose the one that works for them. So
you have the word marketplace in the title. It's safe to say that this is kind of using technology. I'm sure a lot of listeners are familiar with the Facebook marketplace, right? I list something for sale, someone can come buy it. You're just connecting the dots with that technology.
Sure, yeah.
Exactly.
I think the big difference between Facebook Marketplace and Drafting Marketplace is that we've spent a significant amount of time hand choosing, picking, marketing to, vetting drafters and engineers.
Sure. I mean, way more specific that you're able to do that, right? It's not just people listing bikes and old toys.
Right.
Now, it's an interesting concept, right? Like on one hand, a lot of different industries are doing something similar, right? On the other hand, it's like, how did you end up with shop drawings in that space, right? Like, how did you guys? We've already covered. You've known each other since day one. How did you connect on shop drawings?
You want me to tell this? What do you got?
Yeah, you go ahead. You like the story, yeah.
I like the story. Tyler doesn't like the story, but it's the truth. So I have been doing marketing and tech-based stuff for a long time. I won't get into the history of it, but I'll do a quick 50,000 foot. I was a VP of marketing for a financial institution, the top 2% of financial institutions in the country. I was poached by a tobacco startup in South Carolina. Worked there for 18 months. We grew the company from 2.3 million to 15.6 million in a short period of time. Now that company's over 50 million. I left a partner there, and I left as a partner there. We to start my marketing company, and Tyler and I, just because we're friends, we talk frequently. I was driving down the highway, heading back to my office, and he called me. And he was just frustrated with the. Well,
I've been drafting for over 20 years as well, so doing shop drawings and things like that. And so I called him frustrated one day because there's feast and famine is a term that we use. You'd have too many jobs that you're trying to hit lead times with, and then I would get into a point where I'm like, I need some work coming in, it's kind of that up and down sort of thing, and not just, and I'm like, short of just emailing and calling and saying, hey, you guys got any work, this and that, I was like, I was telling him all this stuff. And go ahead.
Well, he was threatening to become a fireman. I'm like, dude, you realize we're middle-aged men. Middle-aged men don't become firemen now. I mean, that's insane. I know you're athletic and you take care of your body.
I could have done it.
You could have, but then 5 years, where would you have been? And so I was like, don't do that. That's insane. You've got all this industry knowledge. Let's leverage that industry knowledge. Let's take technology that's really not that advanced and introduce it to a moderate to late adopting industry. And we can make the industry better. We can solve these problems that you're frustrated with, because if you're frustrated with them, probably most people are frustrated with them. So I literally drove back to my office, pulled the team together and said, okay, this is now becoming 20% of our time. And that's where we started. And now it's
yeah. And there are freelance sites, but they weren't specific to our industry. And I mean, as you know, John, I mean, there's a specific, specific set of skills came to my head, but I should, there's
his uncle's Liam Neeson.
Right. I can have an audio clip right there.
There's knowledge you need for our particular industry. You got waterproofing, you've got design loads, you've got tieback anchors. I mean, there's so many different variables that go into. You have to understand so many different systems and windows, storefront, curtain wall, different things like that. In this element, you don't just need to know how to use AutoCAD or Revit, if you will. And so that's what he was touching on earlier, is that it's more than just a freelance site where you put your project on and find somebody who knows drafting. These people, these firms, they know the industry, they know glazing, they know systems, and so that's what we focused on. We said we need to get some users that these contractors can trust and know what's going on.
We've essentially spent the last 2 years focusing on that one thing,
right.
Getting the best drafters and engineers that we could possibly get across the U.S. and Canada on the platform.
So first shout out to the firefighters. My neighbor and one of my great friends is chief of fire in the city that I live in, and that's awesome. That's kind of a backup plan in my brain too, right? Like everything goes there. I'm not gonna say it's number one, but it's probably a top 5 backup plan if I had to hop into something immediately, right?
I mean, every kid.
It's hilarious. Our COO, our old COO left 2 years ago, and went and became a firefighter.
Listen. Well, okay. So some of the horror stories, maybe I'm not cut out for, right? Pulling twisted members out of a vehicle, that kind of stuff. But like hanging around the firehouse, like cooking and playing ping pong, like,
dude, I mean, that's what sold me. But like you're saying, I mean, So I started down the road. As a matter of fact, I had a buddy that he went to EMT school and ended up going, and we were kind of like about to do it at the same time. And I looked at my kids when I got home, my kids were probably 8 at the time. And I'm like, if I had to respond to like an accident and there's an 8-year-old kid and I'm trying to those people, I shouldn't say guys, I mean these people that are firefighters and EMTs and things, I mean emergency response, they're a different, they're
acutely aware of the fragility of life.
And I don't know that I'm not sure I could handle it mentally. So
no, shout out to the first responders. It's not a journey I think I could take.
Absolutely.
When did y'all start the drafting marketplace?
That's a great question. So we started building and planning and vetting drafters and all of that in 2017. But in 2017, we hadn't introduced to market. We introduced what we call a minimum viable product. We essentially wrote down 100% of the problems that we could identify, picked the top 20% of the problems that we wanted to solve for, that we thought would have the most positive impact, and then we designed a platform around that. And then we've been building out from there. We launched at Glass Build 2022. So we've been on the market since October of 2022.
So you went back to your marketing company and said, this is 20% of our time now. Has that eclipsed the 20%? Do you still have the marketing arm?
I still have the marketing company. Yeah, we do well at the marketing company. And then essentially the marketing company is the marketing team for Drafting Marketplace. The marketing company treats Drafting Marketplace like one of our software and marketing clients.
Okay. What's working well? Like what's working really well combining these, combining the construction industry, the glazing industry with this technology? What's working the best?
I would say probably just establishing actual relationships and getting to know each individual glass house, getting to know, drafters and engineers, they're ready to work. There are lots and lots of good drafters and engineers. There are lots of bad drafters and engineers. But with regards to getting the contractors and the drafters and engineers to work together, it's been contractors. It's been about relationships. We really had to help contractors understand that we not only do we care about the quality of work that they're receiving, we also have, I mean, Tyler's been in the industry for over 20 years. We know the industry. And so helping them see that we know what we're doing, our drafters and engineers know what they're doing, and we actually care about the end product. I think that's been the most helpful thing through trade shows and things like that.
Yeah, and I think the contractors that we've talked to a lot of them. Like I was talking about earlier, as far as lead times and things like that. I mean, just giving them the option, first of all, to just upload things one time or upload a Dropbox link, if you will, just one time and be able to access all these, a drafter in, Washington State, could work for a contractor down in Florida. I mean, that's not something new, but it's hard for them to find each other a lot of times. And so it's just the ton more options that they have as far as price, and then also lead time. We've talked to some contractors, they're like, what I used to wait 4 to 6 weeks to get back, I'm getting back in, a couple days, because they've got options. They have these, they're not tied to, a certain group or a certain couple of drafters, if you will, that, drafters get covered up. Like I was talking about earlier, if it's 4 to 6 weeks, it's 4 to 6 weeks. And I guess drafters could say, well, I tell you what, if you give me a little extra kickback, I'll move you up in the list. But that kind of screws everybody else. And so that, they try to hold to their schedules. And so what we're doing is we're giving them options. So that's one thing that's worked well is, just taking, I mean, you know how it is getting in line at a manufacturer. If you get approved drawings and everything, and you get everything to them, you get to the production line before somebody else. You're moving on to the next thing. You're getting your material to the job site earlier, and you keep moving. So,
and we can do thousands of projects a month, so we can make a real big impact on the commercial construction industry.
Yeah.
So what's not working well in that space, if anything? Maybe you guys will tell me everything's great, but I'm sure there's something that's just not catching, or something you'd like to do better.
Nothing's perfect. So the response we've given to people is each month we have more projects and more users than we did the month before. But the adoption rate of contractors isn't as fast as what we had hoped. We tend to, whenever we launch a product or a service, or investigate investing in something, we do a 20%. What happens if we meet 20% of our goal, or the TAM? What happens if we meet 20%? What happens if we meet 30? What happens if we meet 50, 80, so on? And so we knew that there were options that weren't as fast. We knew that there were possibilities that it was a possibility that we wouldn't have contractors adopt our platform as fast as what we think it should be adopted. And that has been the thing that hasn't gone as well as we'd hoped. It's gone well. Every contractor that's used it loves it.
From talking to contractors, sometimes when they're, which was also something we were looking to mitigate with this as well, is when they would have to use a new drafter, sometimes they'd get burnt. I talked to some contractors where, I remember when we launched, we were in Vegas at Glass Build 2022, and we were outside of some after party that we weren't on the list to get into. Obviously nobody knew who we were, but that led to that might have been BEC, actually. I think it was BEC 2022. Anyway, it was out in Vegas, and I was standing outside, and there was a contractor standing there, and I just kind of was striking up conversation, and I said, hey, what do you do? And so he told me he was a contractor, and a glazing contractor, and I said, well, I was telling him about Drafting Marketplace, and he goes, was telling me this horror story about, he said, he didn't like to get, pick up new drafters or new shop drawers because, he said this last one that he used, he got something back and he didn't even resemble shop drawings. And so it cost me this and I had to do this. So I think a lot of contractors, they've been burnt in the past. And so when we tell them that we've got, all these drafters, and these engineers that they can access that are awesome, the first thing in their mind is, how bad of a set of drawings am I going to get? And I think that's kind of been a hurdle that we've had to, really ease their mind on, is that we've done our homework. We've sought out, people that are experienced in our industry, because I came from this industry, so I can spot somebody if they don't know what they're doing. And so, those aren't the types of, the users that we have on the platform. So I think for me, that's been the biggest hurdle, is just getting them over their past wounds and scars, so.
Well, I mean, that makes a lot of sense, right? Like, on one hand, you might think of shop drawings as kind of a, it's kind of the easy part. It's kind of the warm up, right? But like, you mess up shop drawings and you don't get it corrected before you're out putting product in. I mean, that turns into a nightmare. I remember the shop I worked for out in Colorado, like, shop drawings got reviewed by like 4 people before they left the door. Like, just any small detail we have to fix before it goes out. With you guys doing, and Brandon, I think you said, thousands of shop drawings per month. Like, how you're not vetting the actual drawings, you're vetting the drawers. Like, how many do you have using the platform?
I don't know the number of drafters and engineers that we have using the platform right now. I can look at our back end and
the firms that we have on there, they have multiple drafters within their company.
Yeah. So, and maybe that's not the right question. The quantity of people. I'm more about just like, what are you doing to vet those people? Like, how's that process work? They have to improve, use the platform.
So I'll say that initially the vetting we were doing was looking through their work, talking to them, meeting with them, things like that. Now we have drafters that are joining the platform that we don't know. We don't know who they are. And we have an internal review process. So when a contractor signs up to do business with Drafting Marketplace, they set up their account, they post their project, and from there, drafters, if it's a drafting project, drafters all over the U.S. and Canada get notified via email that this project's ready for them to bid on it. If they're engineers, they get notified for an engineering project. But then once they start bidding on it, they can send pre-bid messages, things like that. But each drafter and engineer, they have a profile that they set up. And in that profile, we have past reviews from other contractors who have used them, good and bad reviews. We don't filter out reviews. They list all their previous projects on their, essentially it's their digital resume. You can see how long they've been working in the industry. You can, so the contractors themselves get the opportunity to vet them. And
so you're not, Drafting Marketplace as the business is not necessarily vetting the drafters. The drafters create a profile like a Fiverr or Airbnb, right? Like, and then the contractor has to do their due diligence off of that profile.
That's exactly.
Yeah. And in the beginning we did, to start building it up, we sought out drafters and we talked to them and we had meetings just like we're doing here. And, but yeah, we have new users join every day.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I said at some point you've got to scale and it would not make sense to do that.
Exactly.
Now, if a contractor is hesitant about a bad drafter and they choose someone with nothing on their profile, I mean, it's kind of on them, right?
That's on them. Yeah.
And we wanted them to not just have to take our word for it, like we wanted them to be able to see for themselves, because we have, different drafters have different styles of drawing, as far as organization within their set of drawings and scales and things like that. And so we wanted the contractor to be able to look at that for themselves and say, this fits this fits what we're looking for.
So the adoption rate thing doesn't necessarily surprise me as someone who has also been in this industry for 25 years. I'm rounding. I have to, there's years where I wasn't in the industry. So like, do you count those or do you not count those? Right. I started when I was 14, but there's some time bartending in there. There's some time snowboarding in there. Doesn't matter. I've been in the industry a long time. So the adoption rate thing doesn't surprise me because, I still hear the same issues, the same complaints that people were saying 25, 30 years ago, right? Like, lead times are bad. Someone forgot to enter my order. The material is damaged. We forgot to put in our end dams. Like, it's just the same stuff. Like, it's a very slow evolving industry, and that's probably encompassing of construction as a whole. You're gonna have that. You're gonna have the guys that just don't want to change. They want to do what they're doing. They want to use their people, or they have somebody in house, whatever. But like on a bigger scale, how can our industry be more efficient? Obviously, your product is one way. What's another way that we can be more efficient? And maybe it's something you're considering implementing into your program at some point.
I think that one of the things that I'm noticing is just pre-construction has been neglected in general, right? So it's like basketball, right? You want to go play the game, you don't want to do the practice, you don't want to do all the stuff, you don't want to front load the work, and that's how pre-construction is. I grew up doing construction. I've been on construction sites since I was in second grade. My dad still does construction. Both my father-in-law and my dad own commercial construction companies. I've been on job sites my entire life, and I know that what you want to do is you want to get there and you want to do the work. You don't want to do all the stuff, the paperwork and everything else. It's actually why my dad went to work for someone else, because he was tired of the paperwork, and so I think pre-construction needs to be automated as much as it possibly can. I think that we can make our lives easier, and we can speed the turnaround process up on the pre-construction side. We see all these new technologies with actual implementation of products, but we don't see much in the front end. And you hear these narratives from we're in conversations with a handful of big companies for partnerships, and in these conversations that we have, we'll see companies like Procore, Construct Connect, Dodge Construction Network, these different companies that they're saying the same thing. They're saying pre-construction is where we need to be focusing our energies and our resources, because the actual performance of the project, that's going to evolve, because that's where people naturally that's what they want to do. People get into the crafts, become craftsmen because of the romance of actually doing the thing. No one says, I'm going to go work commercial construction so I can do some paperwork, right? So that's I think if we improve that, it'll make the whole game. If you draw a big circle around draw a small circle around the commercial construction industry, and you make everything in that small circle as efficient as you can, and then you draw it out further. Then you go out further. And right now, if we were to draw a small circle around the commercial construction industry, we would see pre-construction as the weakness.
I think to your point, the shop drawings are the unsexy part of it.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's not, just being in the drafting industry, it's almost like, I don't want to use the term like necessary evil, but I just did. So, that's kind of what it's perceived at, I think, cause like you said, the romance of actually building that. But I think, if you don't have the pre-construction, the shop drawings, as far as the accuracy goes, and if there's focus on that, it just, everything down the line flows so much smoother. I mean, you've got your cut links are correct, your glazing is ordered correctly. If everything's correct, you can get everything flowing.
Think about it this way: if you have let's think of a stream, right? If you have some contamination, you have something that's not going well downstream, you move upstream to fix the problem. In process engineering, you ask why 5 times. You go, if something's not going as efficiently or effectively as you want it to go, you ask the first person responsible for the result, why is this happening? They tell you, well, John in shipping isn't doing X, Y, and Z. So you go to John, why is this happening? Well, Susan in bookkeeping, and you do that 5 times, and you're going to find, if you fix that, you're going to find a solution that will have a lasting impact on the industry.
Yeah.
If you go upstream in the commercial construction industry, you're going to find pre-construction. So that's where the issue lies.
Yeah, and I mean that hits home. I haven't beat the drum in a while, but I see, and I'm not like a super technical person, right? Like I can edit a podcast and I'm pretty happy about that as a 42-year-old person, but like I see the technology and I see the construction industry and I see where we're just not taking advantage of things. And there's probably multiple podcasts of me talking about this, but we'll talk about it again with you guys. Like the manufacturer could be so much further involved with the architect that their data could be implemented into those drawings in a way that those could be pulled out, right? So right now, right, 5 glazing contractors bid a job to 5 different GCs, right? And then GC's awarded. We've done a parts. 5 of those glazing contractors have already done parts takeoffs, right? Now 1 glazing contractor is awarded. He's going to do a parts takeoff again. He's going to make shop drawings. They're going to do a parts takeoff again, and they're either using like a GDS type software, or some guys are doing this manually. I used to do it manually back in the day, but the point is that that data could be in those drawings in a way that it could just be extracted.
Yeah.
Right. So instead of it being done however many times we multiplied there, 25 different times, it's done once. And then the drawings are updated, or that data is moved from the architecturals to the shop drawings, and it can be updated there, right? Like there's just a lot of places where I feel like it could be automatically compressed or withdrawn or changed or stretched or what have you. You've got those shop drawings now. They go back to the architect and they're put back into the architecturals, right? It's just kind of moving data. I feel the industry's way behind, and I don't know, maybe that's something you guys see in the shop drawing arena. Maybe it's something you don't. Maybe it's something you've thought about.
We've certainly thought about it.
Right. Yeah.
A lot. I tend to obsess over process. Like when I walk in a store, I immediately think about like all the logistical aspects that went into why did they choose to put the store here? What community demographics did they have to have? For example, back in the day, IKEA had to have, I think it was something like 400,000 people before, and they, even if they found a location, they would completely wipe out the building that was there because they would wanted their exact location, because they used all this data to get the most efficient consumer experience and good consumer experience. And I think that if you were to take the commercial construction industry and you were to treat it like a process engineering exercise, and you just break it down into its columns, its verticals, and you just walk through it, and you could draw a line between all the inefficiencies, and you could see if we adjusted here, this would have this impact downstream. If we adjusted here, this would have this impact downstream. And ultimately, drafting marketplace, that's our goal. We have stuff in production right now. We have features and functionality in production right now that we haven't released because we have certain thresholds, user thresholds, that we have to meet before we will release those.
Yeah.
And so we're waiting for those thresholds to be met before we release these next features and functionalities. But we have goals set to improve the industry as a whole, to help people as a whole be able to perform more projects in a year than they ever have.
It is tricky, right? Because it's, you already talked about, you get into construction because you're a craftsperson. You want to build something, right? You don't want to get stuck in this technology, but at the same time, there is technology that's in our industry, right? We have robots that can install curtain wall embeds, right? I mentioned GDS, like to do a takeoff, like it's there, but you're right. It's just the inefficiency of it. And how it gets there, I don't really know. I don't really have an answer for that. But quick side note, you mentioned IKEA had to have 400,000 people or something. That's the population of the area.
Yeah.
So you'll like this one. Planet Fitness does 50,000. If they got 50,000 people, they'll open a Planet Fitness.
Really? What percentage of the population do they expect to
They don't
adopt?
care because they cycle it.
Okay.
So they like, I don't know if you've ever joined like a Globo gym. Like I joined a Gold's Gym back in the day.
I'm a member of Planet Fitness.
Nice. So I joined a Gold's Gym back in the day. This has nothing to do with glass or drafting.
We don't have to
And
talk about glass or drafting.
Fine.
Interesting conversation.
They moved their physical location. Like the gym closed and moved to a different location. And it was no longer like convenient for me. It was no longer on the way home from work, right? So I tried to cancel my membership, and they've got all this crap in their contract. Like we're allowed to move within 6 mile radius or something. And it's like, they hold you to that contract for that $29.99 a month. But what Planet Fitness does is they let their people quit whenever they want.
Yeah.
And they do that because they know that person will come back when they want to, when it's New Year's Eve or when it's summer potty time. They just churn that 50,000 people.
That sounds familiar, Tyler. That sounds like we don't have membership fees for Drafting Marketplace. You get to use it when you want. Yeah,
that's right.
So I assume that you can cancel your Drafting Marketplace whenever you want.
That's correct. Yeah, there's no membership fee. We only collect money when a shop drawing or engineering service has been provided. Once it's complete, that's when we collect.
Oh, you're missing out. Membership fees. You guys could have free bagels every month.
Yeah. We could, or we could just make the industry better. I don't know.
That's fair. All right. So we touched on, I mean, you're kind of aware of the inefficiencies in the processes and whether that's going to be smart documents or whatever it is, right? Whether it's that, something else, what does Drafting Marketplace look like in 10 years?
Oh, that's a great question. Okay. All right. So I don't know if we should say this or not, but I'm going to. Let's just do it. So we're working on different AI functionalities. We'd like to be able to, one of the things that we want to do is we want to disrupt the market in a good way. We don't want to cause people to lose jobs and things like that. So we're trying to we think about, I know sounds very like we've got delusions of grandeur, and maybe we do, but think about the social media platforms, Facebook, the individuals that discovered the specific man who figured out the best model for monetization for Facebook, the continuous scroll technology, these things. How much thought did they put into what happens downstream? What happens to society? How does this impact society if our adoption rate becomes, through the roof? And so we're thinking through things like that at Drafting Marketplace right now. We're mapping out different, like I said before, different AI functionalities. How can we leverage AI to make drafters' life easier, to make an engineer's life easier,
contractors'
life easier. I can't give you specific details because that would be professional suicide, I think. Definitely not do us any favors, but we're working on advancing technology to make the amount of time spent per project, to reduce that amount of time so that people can take on more projects. Especially
in the pre-construction element of it. I mean, if 10 steps can be dwindled down to one, obviously, as far as like we were talking about the adoption rate of new technology, I think that's one thing that they could look past, if we can get to that point.
I'm with you, and I'm also with you on the comment you made of not taking people's jobs and looking forward to it, right? Like AI is here, and if I've got listeners that are not aware of how here it is, I mean, it's like super here. Like, I mean, I use it almost on a daily basis, and I'm just using like some really basic stuff, but like I'm talking like text to video creation. I'm talking
it's scary here. Yeah.
For our next 5 years are going to be it's going to change everything. Yeah. Social, geopolitical environments. We have a lot of adjusting to do, for sure.
For our industry, if you're a listener and you've never messed with this, go to ChatGPT or go to Gemini and just type in some parameters of like what you would want to build if you were a builder, if you were a commercial builder. You want a building that's 20,000 square feet. You want this type of glass facade. I mean, it'll give you renderings, like architectural renderings in seconds. So
for free.
Yeah, and I'm with you on all that. And are they perfect? No, but like we're just in the cusp of that, right? And I've said this before. I don't think AI yet, probably not in our lifetime. I don't think it replaces people, but I think people that use AI kind of replace people that don't use AI. If that makes sense.
I think that's a good way to put it. Yeah, because I mean, just even when you get into them modeling and things, they're not as it's not as precise as you'd like it to be. I mean, that's why you still need the 2D breaking down, what extrusions look like, what your, the different things like that. So that's why there's still, like you said, it's not quite there yet as far as precision goes, especially when it comes to, shop drawing type information. But if you're not looking into it to make it easier on yourself as far as producing shop drawings and engineering, I mean, you should be.
Also, I'll put it this way, because we need to belabor the point. When a handful of years ago, I was in a discovery call with a construction company for marketing services for my marketing company. And this guy, he was like, I don't need to market. I don't need to do any of this. I don't need social media. I don't need a website. He's like, I've got a crew of guys in Georgia and Florida and South Carolina and in North Carolina. I don't need you. I'm like, okay, cool. But here's the problem. When you do need me, it'll be too late, because all of your competitors that are performing, that are doing these things, that are engaged in marketing at this level, they will have built a platform that will be working for them by the time you need it. About 1.5 years ago, this guy called me sobbing in a parking lot, saying that he can't make payroll. He's had to lay off almost his entire crew. He's got one crew left. He and his wife have divorced, and he's not making $2,500 a month. This is a guy who's making millions of dollars. You may know who it is. And he's like, I need help. I was like, man, I can't help you. I cannot, there's nothing I can do to help you. This isn't something that you can just pick up overnight. You have to invest in it every single day. And AI is whether you want to use it or not, it is here. So you need to learn how to use it. And maybe we can control its projection.
If you're a business owner, if you're a contractor, if you're a W-2 employee for a manufacturer, like it's here. And, listen, if you're 64 and you're going to retire in 2 years, I don't know. Do you need to focus on it? Probably not. But you might live for another 20, 30 years and it might be something. So, I mean,
it's still going to be involved in your life. Yeah.
I'm pretty heavy on the AI and robotics train. So I used to have like the concept, and I think a lot of people do, just this general sci-fi concept or fear that like the AI takes over, right? Like when it becomes sentient and we're all kind of slaves to it until it decides that we are too much of a drain on the earth and it needs to get rid of us, right?
Yeah.
I got a cooler idea, I think, at least like in the interim. So now you've got these kind of like combating AIs, right? You've got ChatGPT, you've got Gemini, you've got Microsoft. Is Microsoft Gemini?
Microsoft is ChatGPT, and they also have Watson.
Okay, and there's the Bing Create. I don't know. It doesn't matter. There's a variety
by Microsoft, which owns ChatGPT.
A variety of them now, right?
Yeah.
And instead of just AI taking over, there's different AI segments, right? And they all have their human biological armies.
Okay. All right.
And what they're competing for is storage space, data storage space,
and nuclear power to keep their functionality running.
Exactly. Yeah. So instead of just making us all like batteries, like the Matrix, they're actually using us as pawns in a war against each other.
I mean, that's something, I guess.
I think I prefer the Horton Hears a Who perspective, where we're just a small part of something much larger. We're building that life an evolutionary process.
Okay.
But
I'm just looking to make a sci-fi movie. If any listeners have any connections.
Speaking of, my wife has never seen the Terminator movies, and now I don't know I don't know that she would watch them now.
Too much anxiety now
because, that, but also like that's one of the first things I think of. A lot of people probably do as far as AI, the machines taking over sort of thing. So now if she watched it, she'd be like, "Shut it off!
This is too close to home."
Listen, Terminator, Terminator 2. I mean, these are legendary movies. I personally, maybe I'm a little spoiled at this point. I also don't watch a ton of TV or movies anymore. So when I do, I don't know, I kind of like want it to be really good. I got a hard time watching older movies, man. Like just the visual quality, the sound quality of new stuff is just so much better.
Yeah, the pace on old stuff is so slow. It's crazy.
If the nostalgia part of it wasn't there, especially like if you look at Star Wars, movies like that, like, it's almost laughable, but because there's the nostalgia.
Have you seen this boy?
It's the nostalgia aspect of it, and I don't know. Sometimes I like Never Ending Story. I like that there's an actual physical, robotic, animatronic type thing that the actor is.
It took some work. It took some effort.
Acting with. I don't know. I'm like, this is somebody crafted this. This is cool. Otherwise, you see the behind the scenes footage of a lot of these movies nowadays, and it's like they're in these suits with like
the dots on them,
and they're running, and there's just a green screen, and it's like, I get that now that's harder to act in, but it's and it looks way better. I'll give them that.
We're just old. That's what it is.
I like the animatronics aspect of it, I guess.
No, I get it, and I also know, like, my wife and I just watched The House of Dragons. The I guess it's a prequel to the Game of Thrones, and like they've got, I don't know if you guys watched it. They've got these.
I haven't seen either one of them.
I've seen the advertisement. I just haven't seen it.
They've got these aerial dragon battles that are just like so like. I don't want to say they're believable, but they're just like very visually high quality, right? And I'm just, in 10 years, I'm going to go back and watch that and be like, oh my goodness, I can't believe we thought this looked realistic.
That's terrible. That's like, my daughter loves Toy Story, like absolutely loves it. And we watched Toy Story 1 recently. I was like, holy crap, this is like the worst animation that you can find. It's like, it's terrible.
And it was amazing. It was comparatively, yeah.
We just put on a show, Black Sails. It was only like 7 years old. And just like 5 minutes into it, I'm like, oh my goodness, like this was only 7 years ago. Where's the are we moving that fast?
That's what's scary as far as AI. I was watching the podcast and, hearing, when you hear people that are like Elon Musk and these people that are, that know things that I don't know.
Yeah.
And they're like,
oh yeah, Elon and how he's terrified of it. Yeah,
2 to 3 years, and we're gonna have a
telepathy.
Like it's gonna be.
Well, did you catch the Neuralink guy? He was on Rogan a couple months ago, maybe a month or two ago.
Yeah, it was about a month ago. Go ahead. Sorry.
Can control his mouse cursor with his brain, basically.
Yeah. They've already had their second trial. With another person. The thing about tech, though, is that if you go back and you look at the press releases for technology, they say things like, these tech giants and things like that, they say things like, this is what's going to happen. And what they're doing is they're socially conditioning all of us to believe that that's going to happen and to start preparing for that. So it's almost like market conditioning. And it doesn't have to happen the way that these guys say it's going to happen. They say it's going to happen, and then we all follow suit.
Well, yeah, and I heard, I lost my train of thought there, but even
I have that effect on people.
I didn't even get that far into it. I had it and then I lost it. But just talking about the different thing, people get, freaked out about AI, which, if you let your mind wander, it's like, oh, okay, this is the end of days. But if you think about like even the telegraph back in the day, when it used to take, if you sent a letter from here to California, it was as fast as a horse could walk or run some of the time.
Yeah.
And then to think about the change when you could send a telegraph or a telegram, whatever my terminology needs to be.
You could send electronically through the telegraph.
Yes, you say here, send this over, and they type out Morse code or whatever it may be, and they get it that same day. Within they're transferring. Think about the amount of information that went from slowly being transferred to now being able to transfer that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's hard to imagine in today's day and age, but think about the amount of technological jump that would have been.
Yeah, sure.
Today, plus vehicles and things like that. I mean, I know it seems silly when you're thinking about AI compared to those things, but it had to be such a shock to your system back then.
Yeah, I mean, we have the printing press. When the printing press was released, it nearly destroyed governments. The technology was insane, and people had too much information, according to the powers that be. When we introduced the horse to the United States, or it wasn't the United States at the time, but the North American content, the impact that had on the world, we introduced steam, electricity, all these different things. We've seen these technological advancements, and I'm trying to every day not to freak out and be like, oh, it's the end, and just feel like this is just another phase.
It's a great time to be alive. You generally don't have to be scared of wolves when you go outside at night. Right. We've come a long way as a society, yet I'm over here still sometimes doing a hand takeoff on a storefront elevation, right? I've got 12 feet of this part. I've got 4 feet of this part.
Well, it works, though.
I'm scribbling it down on a piece of paper.
Can't let that dang technology make mistakes that you wouldn't make,
That's right. Well, guys, greatly appreciate your time. Tyler, I forgot. I think I tried to get you when I was doing the Glazing Guru podcast. So here we are.
You said earlier.
Yeah, I remember and we were just too busy, I guess. No, I think our plan. I mean, we
didn't have a following. I wasn't big enough for you. It's okay. It's not a big deal.
Not at all. We were
two ducks in a row on our end.
It doesn't matter. Here we are. We got it done. And guys, appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Dude,
yeah. Thanks so much for having us.
Yeah.